Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
As summer starts to wind down, we know one thing. We know that means school days are starting to gear up. This is certainly a different time for many students. I had talked about phosphatidylserine and the impact that can make in terms of stress and focus and how beneficial phosphatidylserine can be. But I also want to focus in on other nutrients that can be beneficial for school age children. So it doesn't matter if we're looking at elementary school, if we're looking at middle school, if we're looking at high school. Across the board, we have to understand the stressful nature that the new school year can bring upon for many children, especially with the pandemic going on and how this can really disrupt their normal learning environment. Maybe they are going to be doing virtual schooling. Perhaps they're going to be in some type of a hybrid type of focused learning. So it is going to be not the norm. You know, usually kids are kind of used to going back and they go and they get all their school supplies and get their new school clothes or their uniforms for school. And there's kind of this normal routine. Well, this year is certainly different, but we definitely want to make sure that we have the body prepared for all that the school year requires of us. So you have to get out of that summer mode of, you have all the time in the world, and now you have to be more on a regimented schedule. Now, this impacts not just school children and high schoolers and college students. This also can impact parents as well. So for many parents, if your children are going to be doing virtual learning, you may have to make some major modifications to your schedule. So this is where I was talking about phosphatidylserine being very beneficial to offset a lot of that stress. But I want to kind of focus in on just basic nutrients that would be advantageous to consider as the school year is upon us. So for some areas, schools are already back. For other areas, it may be after Labor Day when you start to see the real flood of schools starting to reopen. So at the end of the day, what we want to be able to do is to make sure that we are taking a comprehensive approach to our overall health and wellness. So we can look at something as simple as a daily multivitamin. Now, for many people, they think, well, why would I need a daily multivitamin? I feel like I eat fairly healthy. Well, one thing that we do know is only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy, which is a really clear indicator that no, indeed, most Americans are not eating the right foods. And even if you are trying to take in what you perceive to be good, healthy foods, you may still be missing key vitamins and minerals. And we know the importance of our vitamins and minerals when it comes to all functions in the body. So I want to kind of give you just a general overview of things to include into a back to school routine. So say if we're looking at younger kids, then we want to be thinking about a multivitamin. So we have the Invite chewable multivitamin. This is a really good option for younger kids to get a comprehensive multi-spectrum vitamin mineral combination. And this is really quite essential because when you look at vitamin deficiencies in children, this is much greater than oftentimes people even recognize. You can look at vitamin D deficiencies, for example, and we know that American children generally have a greater likelihood of having that development of vitamin D deficiency. So when you look at it in terms of percentage-wise, roughly 10 to 40% is what they estimate, depending upon geographical area within the country, of American children having vitamin D deficiency. Well, we also know that most pediatricians are not testing for vitamin D. And the reason why this is so critical is because not just for their bone health, but you have to think about the brain connection to this and the ability to learn and to focus. And if we have inadequate vitamin D circulating throughout the body, this can certainly become very, very problematic. We can look at issues with iron deficiency. This is another area where oftentimes we see this in American children. It's estimated 10 to 15% of American children have iron deficiency. You can start to look once again at the intake of certain foods and what they are lacking. So these are things that you definitely want to be cognizant of because they can certainly impact the entire learning environment as kids are going back to school. You can look at calcium deficiencies. This is oftentimes kind of alarming when people learn the statistics on this, but we do know that when it comes to the intake of calcium, generally speaking, and this is based off the National Institute of Health, 80 to 90% of school-age children are not getting enough calcium from their daily dietary intake. So taking just a simple multivitamin really helps us to kind of cover a lot of those gaps. Now, it doesn't mean that we still need to focus in on other areas. If there is a vitamin D deficiency, then maybe looking at adding in some liquid vitamin D or vitamin D capsules. So there's different ways that you can approach that based off of how significant the vitamin D deficiency or insufficiency happens to be. Then you can also look at other ways that you can incorporate. So we have the chewable, but we also have the multi-energy powder. And the multi-energy powder is a really nice way to incorporate in all of these different nutrients. So you're getting your vitamins and minerals, but you are also going to be getting some added boosters for brain health. So it has choline in that. We know choline is really quite essential when it comes to the manufacturing of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine, we have to have that for brain health. And the reason why is because acetylcholine helps us with memory. So thinking about going back to school, thinking about learning new information, if we have the multi-energy powder, which is providing and yielding us with that very important choline, this is going to be quite advantageous. It also contains inositol in it. Now, inositol is real interesting. You can kind of look at inositol as being like a B vitamin. And inositol is really important for cell-to-cell communication, especially within the nervous system. So we talk about the brain, so those interconnections. So to make sure that the neurons are firing on all cylinders, one could say, having inositol as part of the multi-energy powder, really, really nice. Has carnitine in that. We know carnitine is essential for proper energy production within the brain. Dimethylglycine, making sure that the body has the ability once again to filter out any free radicals and toxic buildup. So this is a very comprehensive way to make sure that you are getting all of those key vitamins and minerals, but at the same time adding in some additional brain health nutrients. And it's very easy to incorporate into a daily routine. And depending upon the age of who would be taking this, you may modify how much you're taking. And this is something that you could certainly talk with one of the experts at Invite Health to give you some guidance as to what the amount of the multi-energy powder would be in terms of giving you the ideal amount to support your overall health. So that is just one other way for you to get a comprehensive multivitamin, multi-mineral into the daily routine. Now, the other things that you could certainly look at would be the reds and the greens. Now, this is very easy, once again, to incorporate into a daily routine. Now, kids, generally speaking, are going to gear more towards the reds as opposed to the greens. Some kids, if they're used to, having vegetables and things like that throughout their life, maybe they will be very open to having a scoop of the greens every day. But definitely the reds is usually a winner. And the reason why the reds can be incorporated in so easily is because you can add this into applesauce, you can add it into yogurt. There's a lot of different ways. You can just, add it in with water and take it that way. But this is going to give you so many of those powerful antioxidants coming from fruit and vegetable extracts. But what's also nice about the reds as well as the greens HX is they both contain this really wonderful broad spectrum probiotic blend. So we always have to be thinking about how do we support the immune system and thinking about that gut-brain connection. So the healthier the gut, the healthier the brain. So we're taking in all of these powerful antioxidants coming from the fruits and vegetables, has nutrients such as black currant fruit, which is really beneficial for eye health, for example. We have green tea extract, we have quercetin, so things that can even target issues such as the changes that happen in the environment in terms of different pollens right now. So as kids go back to school, as adults go back to school, back to work, things like that maybe being in a different environment and having exposure to higher levels of certain pollutants that may trigger an immune system response. So having the reds, that is going to yield you things such as quercetin, which we know is very, very beneficial for that. Having spinach extract in this, collard extracts, resveratrol, we know is a brain booster right there. All of these nutrients are contained. Plus, as I mentioned, having the nutrients that can be beneficial for eye health. So for a lot of people, being in front of the computer or being in front of your cell phone on a regular basis, that can really start to stress the eyes out. So it has astaxanthin, which can really help to support the eye fatigue that people often can get from staring at a computer screen long term. It has lutein in it, lycopene, all of these powerful carotenoids to really enhance the way that the eyes are working to offset the oxidative stress, but also just the fatigue itself. So these are things that I would definitely encourage people to just take a look at. So when we're thinking about going back to school, what should we be thinking? Let's just think bare bones basics. So we want to think about a multivitamin. So we have the kids multivitamin, we have that multi-energy powder. We also want to think about making sure that we're getting some exposure to healthy probiotics and powerful antioxidants to really give us kind of that supercharge of cell energy pack, plus the ability to fend off oxidative stress that can be brought on because of the stress of going back to school. So we can look at the reds, we can look at the greens, and how easy it is to incorporate these into a daily routine. So there's so many different options that are out there that people can certainly kind of determine what is the best for you. I always say omega-3 fatty acid is always critical when you think about brain health. We think about overall systemic health. So even incorporating in krill oil or fish oil, or you can look at the organic flax powder as an example to try and make sure that you're incorporating omega-3s. So you look at the basics. I always say you want the basics as to what anyone should be doing regardless of age. We look at a multivitamin. We look at making sure we have adequate vitamin D. So even in addition to that multivitamin, oftentimes people will need additional vitamin D. So whether you're taking that in a liquid form, whether you're taking that in a capsulated form, so have your serum vitamin D level tested so you know. Having a probiotic to support the immune system, omega-3 fatty acids, something that's going to help to drive up cellular energy production. So whether we're looking at something such as ubiquinol, or in the case of multi-energy powder, something that's going to enhance cellular energy production via things such as carnitine. So really, those are the main things that you want to make sure that you incorporate. And it is very simple to do. It's all about a routine. And right now is when people are getting out of their summer free time routine and getting into that school focused routine. So this is the perfect time to make sure that you incorporate in all of these key nutrients to really give you that true balance when it comes to offsetting stress, making sure we're getting adequate nutrients to support the overall body, in particular supporting the brain, so we can help to enhance our learning capabilities, our focus, our attention, all of the good things that we know our vitamins, minerals, and other key nutrients do for our bodies. So that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe. You can leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.